Ranked number one in innovation 10 consecutive years, Arizona State University isn't just ahead of the curve, it's creating new paths to success. Learn from notable clinical and research faculty. Online, that's a degree better. Explore programs at asuonline.asu.edu. At Arizona State University, we're bringing world-class education from our globally acclaimed faculty to you. Ranked number one in innovation for 10 consecutive years, and number two among public universities for employability. ASU isn't just ahead of the curve, it's creating new paths to success. Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online, that's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
You're listening to the Unfiltered Discussions podcast, where host Brian Howard talks with his guests about tough subjects and pivotal moments. Let's join Brian as he is joined by his next guest.
My guest is Richard Blank. Richard took a bold leap, leaving Philadelphia at 27 to start a new life and business in Costa Rica. Since founding Costa Rica's call center in 2008, Richard has grown his company to 150 employees and trained over 10,000 bilingual telemarketers. Richard is an expert in telemarketing, leadership, gamification, and customer service, blending business with his love for pinball machines and antique jukeboxes, which he uses to motivate his team. A graduate of University of Arizona, Richard also gives back to his high school alma mater, Abington Senior High, where he was recently inducted into their Hall of Fame for business. I'd like to thank Richard for joining Unfiltered Discussions, and I hope that you enjoy this episode. Welcome back to Unfiltered Discussions. This is Brian. I'm here with a great guest. I'm here with Richard. Richard, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing great, Brian. So happy to be with you and your amazing audience. It's going to be fun.
I'm happy to have you on here. We've finally been able to connect. We've gone back and forth a little bit with some emails, but most recently, I'm very happy that you allowed me the grace and the opportunity to deal with somewhat of a catastrophe on my side of the world, and we were able to reschedule this interview. So first and foremost, I just want to appreciate you for allowing me to do that. Thank you so much. For those listeners that are here, I live in the northern Nevada area, and we had a fire close to home and it involved family and all that sort of stuff. So Richard, thank you so much for your grace on allowing us to reschedule this conversation that we're going to have tonight.
Absolutely. Listen, I love myself. I'm happy to be here, but there are priorities. Of course, that's more important. There's no way I was going to hang on to that date. We're definitely going to reschedule, but I'm glad everything worked out for you, Grandma, and your entire family.
Everything worked out. Certainly appreciate it. Well, let's get into you. So we'll talk about your success, talk about your journey tonight, but I want to know a little bit about you. So you grew up in the Philadelphia area of Pennsylvania. Am I correct on that?
That is correct. I grew up in Northeast Philly, graduated the proud Abington, and I grew up in Rydell, Pennsylvania, right next to Jenkintown.
And how was your growing up in Pennsylvania? What sort of memories and such do you have from growing up in such a wonderful state here in the U.S.?
First is the Four Seasons. Yeah, I love the fall. I mean, especially in Halloween. Wintertime was fun, especially if they called off school. But if you played ice hockey or skied or skated, like to build forts outside in the snow, it's a lot of fun. And where I grew up, we had a lot of woods. So you're just running and exploring and climbing trees and enjoying. And so for me, it was just incredible to enjoy the beautiful spring. The summertime was very humid. It was fun. And, we go to the shore and, enjoy ourselves there. But I tell you what, though, that fall is in the changing of the leaves is something I'll never forget. And secondly, we had some history. Very proud town. We were the capital of the United States before Washington, D.C. Look at the Declaration of Independence in Philly and our Liberty Bell. So, we're super old school. Rocky counts too, The people we grew up with had a lot of pride and they backed it up. And I enjoyed playing sports against and competing against and also hanging out with and having a good time growing up with these individuals. I do believe in nurture. There are places in the United States that do things differently. Northeast Philadelphia, look at it. Look, what do you expect? But I took that sort of vigor and that sort of attitude. And when I went to school in Arizona, and then when I came to Costa Rica, it wasn't the main dish, but it was a wonderful extra sauce or a side dish that I could use to make myself interesting, or at least put myself at ease. And anybody that can relate to Philadelphia is just a really good bonding in the beginning. So something for me, I was very proud to wear that as I was continuing in my journeys.
Living now in Costa Rica, do you just miss being able to go downtown and have a cheesesteak? Is that something that you just wish that you can just go grab one?
100%. I would. There's like 10 places I'd love to go to. In fact, when I go home, it's all I eat at least once a day. I mean, of course, you're talking the junk food, the tasty cakes and the water ices. And for me, I love circus peanuts. But I don't know. There's something about the way things are cooked in the United States is maybe how I was raised. It's more to my flavor, my taste.
Yeah.
But yes, I do miss that terribly.
So before we actually got into the episode, we talked a little bit about our adversary, if we want to talk that way, or competition. Growing up in Philly, you are a Philadelphia Eagles fan, and there are two teams that I despise, and it's because living in Northern Nevada, I'm surrounded by San Francisco 49ers fans. So that's number one, because I think that they're a spoiled fan base. I love them to death as far as people, but their sports opinions to me are very off of what I would like. And then, of course, in the NFC East, we've had a great battle with the Eagles, being a Cowboys fan. And I just want to extend my condolences on the start of the season so far. If you are following the season, my team is just doing exactly what I thought it would do this year, and I'm just not happy about it. So, but the Eagles have some improvement to make, and I think that they might do some things this year. But we'll see. We'll see.
I root for the Eagles, but if you really want to know the truth, I'm a diehard Flyers fan. I grew up watching the Broad Street Bullies at the Spectrum. My pop used to take me to. I even met Bernie Perron at Old York Road Skating Club.
Wow.
That's my hero. And so I am an old school Flyers fan, and I'm a hockey player. And so that's really my true passion. I mean, no offense to the Eagles, Phillies, the Sixers, or even the Fever or the Wings. Some of our extra teams we had. It's Flyers first for me. Always a hockey fan. So that's kind of how I roll.
Aside from school, what took you to Arizona? What was the reasoning for you to travel across the United States and go to a state that is very hot? It's unlike Pennsylvania in a sense where it can get very, very hot in Arizona, but it, like I said, it is across the United States. It seems like, that was a new venture for you. It seems like a challenge for you almost. What inspired you to go down there?
Well, first, dry heat is incredible. You can handle it. You're not all sticky. Secondly, everyone's got a pool or air conditioning. Everyone seems beautiful in Arizona. Plus, it was great weather. And it was a lot less expensive than the other schools that I was getting into in the Northeast and in Florida. And in in-state tuition, it was almost a joke. So I was being responsible just in that sort of choice. But let's get real for a second. Everybody's in a family where they might be under some pressure to have a certain career, study something, continue a tradition, marry a certain type of person, you name it. It's sometimes your parents, grandparents, friends, they put guilt or pressure on you. And to me, I didn't have the maturity to go to Ivy League. I couldn't see myself being an attorney, an accountant. There's nothing against it, but to me, it seemed like a forced march. But I love second languages. It was cool. I felt James Bondish, and all my friends couldn't do it. And anytime I met someone Latino, I could ride that wave for 5, 10, 15 minutes. And get such reinforcement to make me want to keep practicing it on my own and get better. I knew the time was going to come. And so I sat down with my parents at 18 and I said, listen, I don't have the grades for, Washington Lee University or Columbia. So let's get real. And secondly, if it wasn't for the recommendation letter I got from my Spanish teacher and the principal, that ball would have definitely not gotten into that end zone. You got to be kidding me. And so they thought it was a novelty, like a parlor trick, patting on the head, good job, Skippy. But they didn't realize that this is something that I believed in above and beyond, dedicated practice. I wanted to live it. They just couldn't relate to it. And so in school, I was a Spanish major, communication minor. I did it for 5 years. I did a 5-year plan. And during school, since I did 5 years, I could take less credits, which meant I had more time. So I interned for Telemundo, school, sold ski trips and trips to Mazatlan. And so I tried to keep busy and get experience. And then post-grad, I got a job with the importers of Corona. Can you believe that? So I put Se habla español on my business card. I was building on momentum. And then in August of 2000, I had a 1 in a million opportunity. A very good friend of mine owned a center here. My cousin Joe said, "Hey, Richie, why don't you come to Costa Rica for a couple months? Why don't you take a time out, teach some English, and see what happens?" And I don't know about you, and they say it sounds cliche-ish, but you do get that 1 in a million opportunity. When you're making the decision is when you're making the selfish decision. It's almost like when you see something, you don't care the cost. You just want to buy it. It doesn't matter because you just want it. And I knew this was a big decision and life and the long play. And I had to not really disappoint, but I had to stand up and move forward on a lot of decisions. And it was bold and brave. But I tell you what, it's a hero's journey. You get one of them in your life. And I was 27. I wasn't too young nor too old. It was literally the perfect timing for me to fall in love and learn a career and dip my toe in the game of life, Brian, and see what I could do for myself. And so this long shot did it.
That's awesome.
And it's been an interesting trip along the way,
That's awesome. I see a pattern in just the overview of your bio and in some of the decisions that you've made where you haven't shied away from making a decision that's either contradictory in some cases of expectation or that might come with challenges. And it seems as if you were able to take some of those experiences or decisions and grab the bull by the horns in a little bit and make the decisions for you, but also pair it with where you were skilled and where you were educated. And in this scenario, you hinted at you moved to Costa Rica and you taught languages. You took a scenario that I don't think most people would take, where they're moving to another country and they're starting a new venture and they're teaching and manufacturing, if you will, an opportunity for themselves to be able to be successful in another country. Can you talk me through your thought process there? I know that you were given the opportunity and I know that you had a chance to do it, but when you face some of these conversations or some of these decisions, it doesn't seem as if you shy away from the challenge. Am I correct on that?
100% Cowboy fan. You got to go for first downs before touchdowns. You got to grind out yardage. I knew that there was a longer game, but I needed to focus on smaller checkpoints just to make sure I was making progress. Besides increasing my language skills, I was walking into a call center environment that, talking about the year 2000, a little bit different than the Wolf of Wall Street movies that you're watching. And so I'm watching individuals that were bilingual, that were able to converse on the phone, were amazing artists of speech. And I got these chills. And between me and you, I said, it's like wiffle ball. I know I can definitely do this. So I just needed to learn a CRM and the headset and just to build the pace and the endurance to handle 8 hours a day of it. But, once you get used to it, you start biting an apple when juggling, and you can really hone this craft. And it's a soft skill you can use outside the office. But how do you get to something like this? There's a certain time when you're taking that exam and you know the answer. You feel good about yourself. You read it, you understood it. And how about this? You didn't have to study it 50 times with flashcards or memorization. It's the kind of thing you read once, remembered it, singing it, whistling it. It's part of your game right now. And so I was able to gather easily. The thing that interested me the most was less resistance in time and effort and almost hating it. Don't force me to do something. I want to learn these 20 vocab words so I can go out to dinner now, and be smooth. But I was building upon that. It's a boxer. you train hard enough, you do walk in the ring. You hit the ice like I did and work on double pad stacks and certain sort of moves in the net. I want the taste of blood, like Bruce Lee did when he licked it. Yeah, if we're in this, and at least hit me once, or at least show me something so I can feel like a man and I can live. Do I want to dominate everything? No, you get bored of that. In fact, if you look at the boxers, the greatest, look at Ali. He was best friends with Foreman. Those guys, and they used to beat each other up. But then again, they were the only two people that could get the best out of them. Yeah. So they had to love and respect each other. And I love the people that have pushed me, but in a very good way, because they trusted me to push them to get better. And so you're asking me the easy stuff. You're talking about moving to Costa Rica, hanging out at my buddy's center. I'm 27 at the time, still had hair. I spoke Spanish. Had a little bit of cash. This is great. It's like Gilligan's Island times 10. So I'm in the greatest move ever. How could anything even go wrong? You're happy. You meet people, you smile, you shake a hand. I've never been that confident in my entire life. You shine. It's weird. It's almost like an 80s movie when all of a sudden you beat the bully up and you saved the day and got the girl. All right. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like a John Hughes movie. Of course you want that guy to win, Anthony Michael Hall. Yeah, let him be the winner at the end. And so it was interesting. I got tingles. Every day felt like a Saturday. And guess what? I'm so far away from you and my parents and friends in the States. There's no one around to high five. I got to meet new people. And so it made life so fresh and raw. I got to do it again. I got one last shot at it. And most people don't get that. And as I said before, I made some very, very big, interesting, selfish decisions to get there. But I knew that when I am here, you better harness this and see what you can do with this limited time. And if you're able to extend it. And so that's why I'm here today, my brother, just to tell you that it just doesn't happen immediately or overnight. You need to really rely on your intuition. I mean, let's be real. Do not think of a blueprint or a mentor or a self-help book or the news. I don't know. It's this really weird thing that drives you to do it. It gives you the courage to take that step. I don't know if you ever got into a fight in middle school or high school, but you need that courage to step up and defend yourself. I'm not asking you to be a violent kid, but there are times you need your dignity. And so you need that self-respect in order to move forward.
It's the logic of using fear as motivation. I think I'm not saying that for your particular scenario, but there's been times where you talk about fights in middle school and just adversarial challenges that are in your life. When you have the risk to lose something, when you have the risk to have reputational loss, when you have the risk to have monetary loss, it does create somewhat of a fight or flight for you to perform or to not perform or to shy away from the battle. And your choices within that are vital, because if you don't take the bull by the horns, if you will, then you're going to lose. It's the logic of, if you never walk up to the plate, you're never going to hit the home run, but you will always be out. And that's the thought process there. For somebody like me, I've been in a sales environment for the large part of my career, and I loved sales because I enjoyed getting to know people. And that's probably what led me into podcasting, is that I want to have conversations with people that I've never met, people with completely different backgrounds, people with completely different mindsets, and people who have a story to tell. And I found that when you're in sales, whether it be on the phone, in person, through the mail, whatever it might be, you have an opportunity to make an impression upon somebody. And that impression that you make the first time is usually the one that sticks. And with you in a call center environment, when you're walking in and you're setting an expectation, whether it be in a leadership role or in a peer role, what are some of the best practices that you were able to do to not only make a first impression for you with your peers, but also a first impression to your target audience?
Realize that you're taking away sight on the phone. So people need to be a lot more attentive, listen, Pay attention. The worst thing is to not understand a question or a reaction from somebody. So naturally, they need to slow down and calm down a little bit. That's number one. There's also certain soft skills that you can implement to be able to adjust a tone and to reduce the stress of somebody on a phone call. I like repeating what they say and then giving them solutions so they don't have to repeat it again. Using their name selectively on tie-down questions, asking, Brian, makes sense, right? So at least you feel more comfortable moving forward. Military alphabet, so things don't bounce back. I feel people get very frustrated in those sections. And making things at their convenience and tentative, so you're not locking them into something. You are giving them numbers, emails directly so they can get faster answers. And people get frustrated if they're with IVRs or AI or just putting information into a form, and there's latency and there's miscommunication. They don't see the importance. If AI is great if you want to gather information, but if you're looking in the 10-yard line to really get it in there, you need the relationship between two people. So even though my industry may be reduced and you might see more efficient areas, there'll still be that frontline concierge, customer support, appointment setter, lead gen to give you that old school relationship that people are still looking to do. And so that might help make the experience much more positive for the client.
Richard, you brought up AI, and I think that is a very important conversation, and it's a timely one for our circumstances as it sits. When we're looking at a lot of companies that are utilizing AI, Apple, the iPhone, their newest iPhone now has AI built into it, which I do think is a little dated because there's a lot of things that already have AI built into it. Social media has AI built into it. You're looking at Google. You go to Google and you go to a search engine and now has AI built into it. AI is something that is not going to go away, but in my industry, I view AI as a tool. I do not think that AI is an answer. I think that AI is something that you can ask and you can maintain and you can utilize, but you also have to understand how to use AI. So for instance, if I decided that I was going to use AI for this conversation as an example, I may use bits and pieces of your bio, or I may use bits and pieces of your resume or different things like that to try to spur questions. But if I don't feed AI, AI is not going to reciprocate and it's not really going to give me anything. So I still feel like AI is a good tool, but it's also not always something that you're going to be able to depend on. There's a lot of talk about utilizing voices. For instance, James Earl Jones passed away this summer, or late summer, and he has signed over his voice to Disney to be able to use it for generations to come, which is a very cool concept.
Yes.
But when you're talking about AI, what is your experience with AI and where do you anticipate it going within your industry?
I press 0 because I want to speak with somebody. I don't enjoy repeating multiple times or having them confused or forcing me to go through a menu before I get to a next step. Dropping the call after a minute or two because I'm not giving them what they want. Receiving calls that can be misleading in the beginning because they're getting much better in regards to hooking you in with introducing themselves and trying to sell you home warranties and stuff. It depends on the person. For me, I like an ATM machine instead of going into the bank. But then again, I'd rather see you at your restaurant while you're cooking up the cheesesteak and enjoying that experience. There is convenience. I don't want to compete with that. It's not right. But we will always put that aside. It's the old world and new world. As much as we could be surrounded with computers and lights and all the technology, what happens if you and I are out in the woods? So just in front of the fire, by the lake. And what's better? I don't know. I'm still hanging out with you. But I think maybe we might be enjoying the second view better and the time better. So I think that we will always, when humans see one another, the more that we are surrounded with 24/7 everything, will see us as novelty or something we like or relate to. And we might even be much more friendlier towards one another because it's the real thing. It's a painting, not a print. Kind of cool. You know, you look interesting. Can I poke you? You know, what's going on over there? What's happening with you? And it's like when people hike, there's certain communities that love each other and help each other and just are really united. And so when they're on the Appalachian Trail and they see each other and they always ask, "You need water? How you doing?" It's always a hello. No one just walks by. It's always a greeting, like in the old days. And so maybe AI might, instead of having us separated now, it might unite us more than anything because it's the only thing that might be the fresh fruit.
I agree with you. I think that, again, AI is a great tool. I just don't think that it's going to replace the one-on-one, the conversation. You can have a conversation with AI, but really you're getting what you're asking for with AI. You're not really getting something back, something that cares about you, something that just even acts interested. There's human responses. I had a guest on my very first season that was a brain scientist out of Australia, and he talked a lot about how when you have communication with somebody, especially in person, your brain opens the same receptors as it would if you were going to have an orgasm of all the things that are wild. And the reason why it does that is because it gives you that same neural pathway to be able to respond in ways. And it doesn't mean that you're going to respond in an orgasmic way, but what it does mean is that you're going to respond in a way of feeling, in a way of reliving, in a way of communication. And the same thing with that, in my conversation with him, we had talked about COVID and the isolation and everything like that and the impairment that created with everybody. But even being able to have a video conference with somebody and being able to talk with somebody face to face and using cameras still opens some of those receptors, maybe not as much, but allows you to do that. I do find that over the telephone, you have the ability to hear somebody's voice. You have the ability to hear somebody's tone. A lot of times, if you know the person, you might understand if they're upset. You might understand if they're happy, if they're elated, different things like that. And being in a sales position before, I've had the opportunity, like as I said, to be able to make telephone calls. And I remember one of the first sales calls that I did, I jumped right to the product and I spoke specifically about the product. And I didn't even talk to the person about what was great about their day and what they were doing and all those sort of best practices that you would normally lean on. And I thought I had a sale. And as it turns out, I just lost a customer. And it's a very unique trade that you're in because you do have to create that personal experience without the line of sight, without potentially knowing that individual, and also having to build trust. And I'm very fascinated by that because I do think that it is a great source of entrepreneurship, but it's also a great source of being able to utilize the communication skills that you've been educated in, but also in a way where it's relatable to people over the phone that you will probably never shake their hand. And I just find that as a fascinating story. More importantly, I find that in your bio you've trained over 10,000 bilingual telemarketers, and I find that to be fascinating because as you're training people, you're setting an expectation as the trainer that this is what this looks like. Here's how you communicate. Here's the best practice. Here's all of the tools. And I find that so rewarding because you're being able to see the success from these individuals and also share that with them. Can you elaborate a little bit on that? Talk about your experience with that.
Such a luxury trade. I'm very fortunate. We earn a living by speaking, which obviously in 20 years will be replaced. But no, you have to keep it enlightening and interesting for them. It's twice as tough for the agents that are translating on the phone when speaking. So hats off to them as well. It's double the battle. But what's our responsibility to expand their vocabulary, to make it more colorful, not just teach them slang, bad words, and genre, but, more diplomatic and strategic words to eliminate rabbit holes. And as you say, readjustment of tones. So you're in sales, right? A lot of people use the word help on the phone. We go right to the source, pull out the similes of help. and choose words like assist, guide, and my favorite, lend a hand. Another suggestion that I make is never saying excuse me. Fall on that sword. Say, hey, Brian, for my clarification, was it ABC or 1, 2, 3? And then, it's little things like that will assist the individual to not, rocking the boat and letting them know that you have somebody there that's really engaged in this call. But, we have the luxury of listening to their recordings. So besides my lecturing and structure, they listen to themselves. Did they not catch it? Are they allowing the person to interrupt them, or are they just a lot of dead air? We have a technique called the buffer boomerang. It's like if someone throws a question at you, we adjust the tone by name dropping you, saying, Brian, that's an excellent question. ABC is 1, 2, 3. And then you go, hey, Richard, what's 1, 2, 3? Brian, once again, I knew you were going to bring that up. 1, 2, 3 is ABC. So you just keep half mooning it, name dropping it. Good question. Glad you brought it up. Repeating the question, sending it back. And so it's, instead of acting, they're reacting. They're not getting beat up. What they have is fluency, and they can zig and zag on a phone call, because when you're reading script, you're just going to get nailed. People see where you're going. You're just looking down and reading. It's almost like, the guy Sherlock Holmes with his with his magnifying glasses looking at the ground at the footprints. He's not even looking up. And so you can kind of see it coming a mile away. You need to be clever on the phone call, and which means to slow it down a little bit, using more trigger words, pausing before names and numbers. In my mind, using personal pronouns such as your and our. It's like the cousin of the name. It's in every sentence. So you can still get their attention by bringing them in that way. Give it a quarter-second slide. And these are the sort of things that if you pause after giving a list of something, then, Brian, you might get a reaction. It could be positive or negative reinforcement. So instead of horizontal, go vertical, ask open-ended. Then we start stacking and we figure out what you need. And so people rush. It's not necessary. It's like the dessert tray, my man. We go through each one at a time. And I'm watching you. I know what you like. If you like at least one. Brian, if you've been a good boy, then order 2. It's a great tray. And you should describe each one of your services or your company or different parts and give it its own marquee and bright lights and pizzazz, because one flavor to one guy is different to another. And you assuming that you think that ABC is the greatest, you love XYZ. So I need to calm down a little bit. It's more of a balance, more of a control. You shouldn't hate it. You hate it because you're working for a company that you're not comfortable with. They're doing something unethical, or you just feel like you're maxed out. If you have the skills, trust me, people would love to hire you. Find the right organization, get in there. Make a name for yourself and grow. But, don't sell your soul for $1. It's not right. I mean, if you have those sort of skills, you should do the right things.
Richard, we're going to go ahead and take a break right here. But on the back end, I do have a couple more questions, including your special collection that you're also highlighting behind you. So we'll be right back.
Oh, yeah.
Ranked number 1 in innovation 10 consecutive years, Arizona State University isn't just ahead of the curve. It's creating new paths to success. Learn from notable clinical and research faculty. Online, that's a degree better. Explore programs at asuonline.asu.edu. At Arizona State University, we're bringing world-class education from our globally acclaimed faculty to you. Ranked number 1 in innovation for 10 consecutive years, and number 2 among public universities for employability. ASU isn't just ahead of the curve. It's creating new paths to success. Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online, that's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu. Ranked number 1 in innovation 10 consecutive years, Arizona State University isn't just ahead of the curve. It's creating new paths to success. Learn from notable clinical and research faculty. Online, that's a degree better. Explore programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
The Raunchy Regret Podcast. I'll bring you guys back to Mad TV back in the day. Y'all remember Miss Swan?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, so she's looking like a man.
Two guys in a dart.
Sorry,
and-
and did I rub my ear hole out real quick?
Are you all right, buddy?
I just felt so good. I'm sorry.
This is usually the behind-the-scenes content that you're getting, but I'm leaving it right here in this episode. We are not taking that out.
Unfiltered Discussions.
So you feel like the forgiveness is actually better for you in general?
That was a big reason that the therapist was like, you do have to choose. And the only way you can get that inner peace is by forgiving.
And the Hateful Gnomes Music Hut.
Like our last episode, we're rolling right into another band. Hell yeah, when I saw your drummer, I saw he was wearing an obituary shirt. And I was like, yeah, let's fucking go, dude.
Follow B-Word Media Group on social media at BWORD Media GRP.
At Arizona State University, we're bringing world-class education from our globally acclaimed faculty to you. Ranked #1 in innovation for 10 consecutive years and #2 among public universities for employability. ASU isn't just ahead of the curve, it's creating new paths to success. Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online, that's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu. Ranked #1 in innovation 10 consecutive years, Arizona State University isn't just ahead of the curve, it's creating new paths to success. Learn from notable clinical and research faculty. Online, that's a degree better. Explore programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
If you're a facilities manager at a warehouse and your HVAC system goes down, it can turn up the heat, literally. But don't sweat it, Grainger has you covered. Grainger offers over 1 million industrial-grade products for all your operations, including warehouse HVAC maintenance. And even better, they offer access to experts and fast delivery, so you and your warehouse can both keep your cool. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Hi everyone, Brian here from Unfiltered Discussions. Did you know that you too could be a guest on this podcast? If you have an interesting story, a positive tale, or even a somber moment in your life that you want to highlight, I invite you to join my show and share your story with my audience. To do so, please visit www.unfiltereddiscussionspodcast.com. That's unfiltereddiscussionspodcast.com, all one word, and click on Register as a Guest on the top right of the screen. Let's share your unfiltered story in a future discussion. Welcome back to Unfiltered Discussions. I'm here with my friend Richard. Richard, I am loving this conversation, and the reason why is because even though I'm not in a sales position anymore, even though I'm not in even in a customer-centric position anymore, I spent a lot of time grinding and building and really enjoying the process with sales and customer service. And it was something, it was a time period that I was very passionate about, and I look back on with a lot of fond memories. And as I talk with you and you're talking about why is ABC like XYZ or 1, 2, 3, it reminded me of, finding out what's most important to your audience, finding out what's most important to your client. And I would oftentimes, as I was talking with them, trying to identify needs, I'm already thinking product, I'm already thinking solution, but I also want to make sure that I'm understanding what's most important. So I would legitimately say, what's most important to you about this circumstance or this product or this convenience that we're talking about here today? And I would get to know, based on the answers that they would give me, a little bit more about their preferences or a little bit more about the idea of what they thought that they were coming in for. So that way I can try to customize whatever the product or solution was to them, which for me yielded oftentimes more a yes as opposed to a no. And I think that getting to know somebody and really identifying the need is great. When I was in a training position in sales, I would always talk about vehicles. Vehicles have characteristics, right? It might be, in today's age, an electric vehicle or a gas vehicle. It might be 4-wheel drive or 2-wheel drive. It might have power windows. It might have manual windows. The reality is that you're probably not purchasing the car based on the preference of the windows. You're probably purchasing the car off of price, off of whatever's most important to you. If you're energy efficient, etc., you're going to choose the reason as to why you're purchasing the car. So finding out those choices pieces or those characteristics that are most important was the thing that was most important for me. When we're talking about telemarketing, of course, and your specialty, I imagine that you're communicating that to your staff as well. How is it that you relay that message? I kind of relay it in a weird way, but how is it that you relay that message similarly to what I just laid out there?
No, the psychology of making a phone call. Look what you're selling your soul to do. So, it's good and the bad. This is the way I look at it. I believe in romantic deaths. I make 200, 400, 600 phone calls a day. You're having 30-second to 3-minute conversations with people. My suggestion, because the majority of them do not convert into a sale, you're panning for gold. If you have 20%, you're a rock star. Depends on the list, but you're not going to bat zero. So you have to expect the majority of your soldiers, the majority of the hours are not going to hit. So what do? You just don't put the camera on them at all? Come on, give them a romantic death. Guy went on the battlefield, didn't do well, took 1 hour to the head. What a death. So what do I mean by this? If every phone call is an introduction, a body, and a conclusion, forget the second and third half. You don't even have that. You need to anchor. You need to land the intro. Without that, nothing else matters. There's no fire. There's no spark. What do you do, Richard? Well, let's reduce your 30 seconds to your first 3 seconds. You got your anonymity. You get a breath. Probably have about 3 to 4 words. You want to do 5, go for it. But my suggestion for you, besides a stuttering good morning or asking to speak to Brian or even introducing myself, I'd rather say the name of your company first. Unfiltered Discussions, how are you this morning? Well, I'm not anonymous the whole call, that's shady, but whatever it does to the gatekeeper or the owner of the company, it snaps you out of it. Once again, there's the mystery. Who's Mr. Happy Sunshine? So instead of saying, is this a sales call? We're good, thanks. Don't call back. We're good. Click. All of a sudden, I get that reinforcement when you say, hey, who is this? Yeah, man, you drop from a 10 to like a 6. Mm-hmm. Where'd I go with that 4? Put me forward. I took that mass. It had to move somewhere. So then I'll introduce myself. I'm so glad that you asked. My name is Richard Blank. I don't think you're going to hang up on me on that either. So I'm going to double dip. You're going to say, who's Richard Blank? So glad that you asked. And then I'll properly introduce my company. I'm the CEO of Costa Rica's call center. And I'll play my odds. Why? I went from a 10 defense down to maybe a 3. And I'll play 70% pro odds on the first 30 seconds. That's a pretty good anchor right there. Why? I'm showing courtesy. You want to be slick and smooth? We can do that too. But I got some cat that's got to make these calls 8 hours a day. So let's not compromise ethics, values, and morals. Let them have romantic deaths. If Judy's in a bad mood, she'll hang up. If she's in a good mood, I'm going to say, hey, listen, Judy, you're the greatest. Give her a positive escalation. And then when I get transferred to you and you pick up, you're like, hi, this is Brian. I go, yo, Brian, Judy's the greatest person you have working at your company. You don't even know me yet. So imagine your defense. It goes from like a 10 on board who's transferred to me. All of a sudden, you're like, my man, who is Mr. Happy on the phone complimenting Judy? And then I'll say my name again, Richard Blank, and we're hovering at a 1 defense at a 9 offense. And you're just like, all right, buddy, you got 2 minutes of my time. What's going on? So I can buy 30 seconds in the intro to get the transfer from Judy over to you with the positive escalation. With you, by giving the Judy spike, like I did a company name spike, what a great way to start. So I'm taking your 9 defense and moving it offense, and you're at a 1. You love me already, and you're going to give me at least 2 minutes, at least. I just complimented Judy, and so just play it the right way. Proper introductions again. Smoothing it out, and then you do your calls. And I think it's a perfect play. There's very good anchoring to it. If you want to be clever and slick, we can do that too. Sense of urgencies, you can curse, you can do more due diligence and try to angle your way in there. But I'm just doing a very simple, easy template for my telemarketer. So instead of carpet bombing, at least what they're doing is more of a fine arrow shot. So I like that better than just dropping bombs. I think the archer and the warrior feels a little bit better about themselves. And I tell you what, instead of making 100 phone calls a day, now all of a sudden the hunter makes 88 because his metrics moved. His contact ratio is the same, but his talk time increased because he's getting through, he's getting appointments, he's qualifying. And you might expect him to make more, but how is he if his numbers are the best on the board? Leave him alone now. And what you do is you take this ace, this Brian Howard, and you put him in the middle of the room, and you start putting Joey and Tommy and Billy next to him. And then all of a sudden, he's your prince. He's the one that's making it happen. And you find the ones that can do this. And they're the future team leads, supervisors, general managers, because they did it through merit. And they were the strongest out of their crew. Everyone sees it. Those are the people that I love to see shedding skin and cracking codes and getting to that next level, especially with linguistics. These are the sort of incredible soft skills that people can use outside of the office. And so I believe you and I, my friend, all we're doing is increasing their self-confidence and self-reliance so they can have the courage to do what we do and take these challenges pretty good. You know, it doesn't hurt. Punch me again. It's not that bad. Come on, we can take it. It's part of the game. So that's what we do, buddy.
I like it. I like your perspective on this, and I like your experience with this because it is something that, like I said, it does kind of make me reminisce of those times that I was involved in that. But it does remind me of that competitive nature. You talked about Ali and Foreman. It's the iron sharpening iron, and it's the opportunity to really hone your skills. And I certainly appreciate that. But before we finish our interview today, I must point out that you are the largest collector of restored American pinball machines and antique jukeboxes in Costa Rica. So while you may be located in Costa Rica, you are certainly collecting part of Americana where you're at. Talk to me a little bit about how you got involved in that.
I grew up in the 70s and 80s, and Ricky Schroeder had the best arcade and silver spoons. I wanted one of those. You kidding? And in today's world, these arcades are going out of business. And so one man's trash is another man's treasure. And I have the room for it, plus the income. So I would go on to the Mercado Libre or the Craigslist that's down here. And some dude 4 hours away is selling 5 pinball machines. So me, you, and 5 of our boys jump in a truck, going out there with some cash, open the bodega in Perez Zeledon, and the next thing you know, you're looking at these machines been sitting there for 8 years. What do? You buy them for pennies on the dollar. You bring them back. You order the parts in the United States. The electricians come, put everything in, restore them nice. And they're the most beautiful treasures I've ever owned in my entire life. I mean, I can handle Asteroids and Pac-Man and Tron and those great games. But when you played a pinball machine as a kid, that was a quick quarter. Went way too fast. I mean, it was too beautiful, too fast. When I started buying them, I don't know about you, but I got a major addiction, really bad. And so I had the room. And gamification was incredible for this environment. You got a couple hundred people hanging out, playing air hockey and pinball. They're not smoking cigarettes. They're not by themselves on the phone. They're kind of like, they're not icing a kicker. If they just got off the phone, they got a 20-minute break. They're hanging out now, hand-eye coordination, laughing, making friends. So they're still warm when they go upstairs. They feel good. They use that energy. But let's get back to me. So anyway, I'm finding these machines for pennies on the dollar. The restoration is incredible. My oldest machine is a 1970 Bally's Camelot. And the newest one, you're going to laugh, it's a mid-90s Daddy East Lax Action Hero with Arnold Schwarzenegger. I got everything in the middle. For me personally, I prefer the electromechanical machines from the 60s, especially the 1970s. Why? Easier to fix. It's just contacts. Secondly, it's the last of the generation of the wheels and the bells, but then the play field. Listen to me, my brother. It's the last one they used to paint the play fields. Now they're using laminates or stickers or whatever, and it's beautiful. I'm not taking anything against it. But when you're looking at old musical instruments that you see the small cracks, the people drool over it. They claim it plays better, it sounds better. And so these machines have special roles now. They know. And the fact that it's been preserved since 70, think of all the people chilling with that, smoking a Marlboro at a bar, next to a jukebox playing these things. God bless them. And now they're with me. And so I will do whatever it takes to preserve them and have my pinball marathons. I currently own 11 machines. But I tell you what, if you want, and it's not that bad, get a no-namer from the 70s or 80s. It doesn't have to be like, Captain America. It's going to cost you thousands. But you can get a nice 1978 machine for, let's say, $1,000. You put maybe $300-400 into it. Next thing you know, you got the most popular thing on the street. It's like when people used to play on the piano and sing. We're not doing that now. But I bet you a bunch of your friends would love to come by and hang out by the pinball machine. Start throwing $5 down on bets, seeing where it goes. But right here behind me, she's a 1961 Ricola Regis. I know what you're thinking. You're probably getting incredible cachets of music. And yes, I'm getting tons of 45s, but it's of artists I've never heard of before. I wish I could get In Excess or Led Zeppelin or Jimmy. No, not even La Bamba. I got like 100 records in here. I have no idea. So I'm switching them out with my own and buying some new ones. But if you don't want to fix the motor and spend thousands and look for rare parts, just put a Bluetooth in there, an MP3. So now you got all the music. Just make sure the outside and the glass is beautiful and just put that in your home and you'll thoroughly enjoy that too. So.
That's excellent. I see the camaraderie in your description there, where it is not only from a personal standpoint, it's creating the friendship, creating the memories, creating all of that, but even from a professional standpoint, you have a bad call, you go and blow off some steam, have a little bit of that camaraderie, get the feedback, get the juices flowing, and then go right back to it and be productive. I
created recess. That's the greatest thing ever.
That's exactly what you did.
Real recess. Real game room.
That's exactly what you did. Well, Richard, I certainly appreciate our conversation tonight. This has been an absolute blast. I wish you the absolute best in the call center environment that you're in Costa Rica. And obviously, I would love to see that you acquire some more machines that you'll be able to collect and share with others that will enjoy the same experience as you. So, Richard, thank you so much for joining Unfiltered Discussions. I certainly appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Had a great time.
Thank you for listening to the Unfiltered Discussions podcast. For more unfiltered content, follow on social media at UnfilteredDIS.
El otoño llegó a JCPenney con los artículos más acogedores y grandes ahorros, como hasta 40% en la nueva línea de ropa de cama Verpo y hasta 50% de descuento en chaquetas y ropa de invierno para toda la familia. Además, ahorra 25% en pijamas coordinadas para todos. JCPenney, vale la pena. Ofertas válidas del 15 al 27 de octubre en selección de estilos. Aplican exclusiones. Detalles en la tienda jcp.com.